Hello and welcome to my short video on how I prepare paint for my wet palette and also for my glazing well. A few people have asked how exactly I set my paints up. These are the paints I'm using at the moment on Mortarion's wings, so I thought it would be useful to do these particular colours. That there was model colour Ivory by Vallejo. So what I'm going to do for a start is just put all the paints on the palette without adding any water or anything to them. That was Cadian Fleshtone. And you can see the paint is quite thick when it goes on, and I just used the paintbrush to move it from the pot to the palette. I actually prefer pots to drop bottles because I have more control over how much paint I put down. Lots of people say that they use dropper bottles and they move all their paint from the pots because it gives them more control, and I find it's actually the opposite, because I'm picking exactly how much paint out of the pot I want. The only issue with pots that I've found is that they dry out more, but as long as you keep the lids clean, it's not an issue. Anyway, so I'm just continuing to put all the paints on the palette. You can see they look very nice when they're quite thick and they're just blobbed on there. This is Rhinox hide, and the previous paint was also Kislev flesh. I've actually put a little bit too much ivory down on the palette there. You'll see in a moment when I add water to them all. But you should also notice when I start adding water that the different paints require different amounts of water, and this is why I keep saying when people ask how much water to add to the paint that you just can't give an accurate answer because each paint is different. I think that's all the colours down now. Okay, and this is my water jar. Lots of people always talk about what mediums to mix with paints and things like that. I just use plain old tap water, and in that case the tap water is a couple of days old. I don't recommend you do that. It's not healthy for you. But so again, I'm just using my paintbrush to load it up with water and drop it on the paint and mix it up. The paintbrush I'm using, I use purely for mixing paint. Don't do this with your actual painting brushes. It will ruin them. The paint goes all up inside the ferrule, destroys the bristles, everything like that. Actually, the brush that I'm using is quite surprising. I've been using it for quite a while, and it's still almost usable as a normal brush. But even then, just don't do it. So you can see the first paint, the ivory that I added water to, that needed quite a lot of water. That was a very thick paint. But now on the Rhinox hide here, I've only added 1 drop of water, and that's already as thin as, if not more, even thinner than the ivory. Now there was a little bit more ivory, but the reason that it's so spread out more is because it was thick. So to get the same consistency, you had to have more water. So the total volume of liquid is greater now. But before that, there wasn't that great a difference between the two paints. Now I'm going to show you how I prepare the paints for glazing. I'm only going to be glazing Rhinox hide for some painting that I'm going to do later. I'm going to do some more Mortarion's wings, so I'm actually going to use these paints rather than just waste them. And again, I'm using the paintbrush to just put down exactly how much paint I want. Now here you can see for glazing, I think people get the wrong idea for glazing and they think it's just thin paint. It's actually almost water. It's just dark brown water in this case. You can see how the paint runs down the side, and you can see through it. You can see the plastic and the dried on paint things through the layers. Now here I'm going to show you how you prepare the paint on the brush for glazing, because I think people struggle with this as well. You have to, so you load the brush up and you take most of the paint off, and so when you apply it, it's very, very thin, and look, it's almost dried instantly. And again there, you can see it's hardly making a mark. It's such a very small amount of paint, And the idea is that you do many layers, and that will create a very smooth transition. However, you have to remember though that because you do it like this, you will use most of the paint rubbing it on the kitchen roll or whatever tissue paper you're using, something like that. So here's a quick example of how to glaze, and I'm going to be doing it on one of Mortarion's wings. So again, I've loaded the paintbrush up, and I quickly just run it along the kitchen roll, and then using very simple straight strokes with the brush, I just apply it. Don't go over the layers that you've already done. Try and keep it so you're just doing one layer and not catching the work that you've already done until it's dry, because if you do catch it, you'll lift the paint up and it becomes very messy, and you get kind of like coffee stain marks and all sorts of things like that. So it's a very thin amount of paint and it dries very quickly, which allows you to keep applying the layers as you go along. Now if I just did started again at the beginning, it'd be dry again by the time we got to the end. So as you can see, that's a quick and rough bit of tutoring on how you do some glazing. That's the end of this short video, but I hope some of it was informative, and the next video might be a bit more interesting for you. Thank you.